Hello and welcome to the LoE podcast. It is going to be a slightly special one this week. We have got a live interview with the LoE Steward. We have got and that's an exclusive, never heard before. No one's ever heard their voice, so it's going to be an interesting one. And we're going to have a gloves are off between the turncoat and the bottle job. Which is Campbell and Gary, and to make sure that it's independent because there were some complaints about bias, some Irish bias. We've got another QVR member here with us, which is Dan Daka himself. How are you?
Hey, let's level the playing field here, I suppose. I'm really looking forward to this LoE Steward interview. It's like Top Gear revealing the Stig, you know. It's just one of these moments. It'll go down in LoE history.
Well, you know, it really wasn't the Stig.
Yes, and I look forward to hearing the obvious levels of maturity that person possesses above the average league racer. But yeah, I suppose we go on to just more of a kind of a general roundup of what we saw in the last week really at France. We don't want to go too heavy on the results, but there were some big moments there, some big top 5 moments. So I'll start with you, Gary. What was the one that caught your eye really from that race, and as a whole, anything else within that race?
Just Division 2 or overall?
Division 1 actually.
With Division 1, quite a few instances. We had the line incident, which before that we had the Doom incident actually, with a few people were calling for Doom's head, which I found quite funny. But we also had the line and bullet boy incident, which wasn't what you wanted to see, which I don't think been reported, surprisingly, but each to their own, I suppose. But besides those little incidents, it was an overall clean race with Lewis winning again in the wet, which is a real surprise.
And Dan, obviously you was in the thick of it. What kind of stood out for you from any kind of the top 5 moments, and also your kind of experience of the race?
Yeah, I think it was just the early midfield scrapping at the rain. That sounds biased, but you know, it was me, Bullet Boy, Larkin, Alonso, even a few others. We were just all going at it. It was great fun to be a part of that. A bit lower down the field. Glad to see it caught James' eye at least, and I think it put on a good show. So it was fun being a part of that and watching it back as well. I really enjoyed that.
I think the one thing that really impressed me was seeing Alpha Tricks show some serious racecraft. When he was battling Doom, like the respect and Verstappen, and obviously nicking Verstappen on the line. I don't know. It was quite nice to see someone. Campbell. Apologies, yeah, Campbell. But just seeing someone someone that's really quick, obviously, like just got stonks of pace, but also being able to like race wheel to wheel with people that are
exactly.
slower.
He's also shown, even if we know how quick he is at the front. Well, we also seen in France that he has a temperament to get through the field if necessary.
One
which
thing
he did.
You're
good.
One thing that I also noticed in his battles is that he always puts his rivals into like awkward positions that you don't really want to be in, but he doesn't do it in like an over excessive, like over forceful manner. He's always really clean, but he does make his rivals uncomfortable. So I think that's one thing that I noticed watching the race back, and in particular just his driving.
I think he has. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
So I think he's proven that as well as being very quick over a race, he's also very good wheel to wheel. Which, you know, if he does get a chance of fighting for the championship with Lewis, we'll see if that pays dividends through the season.
Yeah, I just think he has like an aura about him, with the other drivers, that they know how quick he is, so they've almost lost the battle already when he's behind them, if that makes sense.
It's because kind of like Montana last season.
Exactly, like they don't expect themselves to be able to keep him behind. So he probably has the mental battle won with most of the grids, bar a few.
that's a really interesting point, and I think when we come on to D2, we should look at that point again, and then perhaps look at how different it is in D2. But I get what you mean. It's almost that tunnel mentality, like, you know, when you lined up against United when like they had Alex Ferguson as the manager, you just turn around and you'd be like, oh, losing tonight then. Like,
you've already lost before you've gone onto the pitch. That's the way it is.
But yeah,
Gary's absolutely delighted that you brought that up.
Man, bring back those days, please.
But the only other thing I think we mentioned, obviously we touched on it last week, the whole kind of, is it over? But maybe not. Lewis has won again. It's going to be a big ask, but I don't know. I think Alpha Tricks is starting to get a bit of a reputation as well. I saw a Twitter feed about the toppest pad user or whatever, and he was up there, and he got more votes than probably all from LoE drivers. But
yeah, mostly LoE.
I think people are going to start thinking, who the hell was that guy? I've never heard of him.
Yeah.
So I suppose we naturally move on to Division 2. I obviously wasn't there for this race, but have caught up on it. Some big talking points. Dan, what did you notice from Division 2 in particular, especially as a commentator?
I think before this nomination gets poached, I'm just going to say the last lap and the fight for the win. I can't believe it, because 3 cars within 3/10 over the line. It's stunning to watch, and I wasn't doing my job as a commentator. I only found out Killer had a penalty on the last lap.
Yes.
But that just added a bit of excitement to the battle for second on the road, the first after the pens kicked in, and of course Rick trying a move on Dan in the last 2 corners, almost pulling it off but not quite managing it. And Dan, even though he always does this, even though he doesn't have the pace, he's always there, he always gets the results, and from time to time he gets the wins, so he's established himself as a really big championship contender from that race. Season defining race that could be. We'll come back to that later on, I think.
Gary, what did you take from it?
Yeah, well, I mean, first thing to take from this race is not to trust Jeff in qualifying. As, he says it's not going to rain, and then I go do my lap in the hard and it rains, and then that fucked me up. But yeah, obviously the big talking point after that race was Cookie Nadry, which I mean, people have their opinions on it. I have my opinion. I'm sure Dan and Mark have their opinions. It was interesting. I'll say interesting, to say the least.
Let's take away the fault. I suppose let's just pretend that neither are at fault. So there's no point even talking about that, because Steward's looking at it, I suppose. Why go for it though? I don't understand. I don't understand the logic of going for, if you're Cookie, going for that move before a DRS straight when you've got another driver behind you as well.
Well, I do agree with you. Yeah, he did. He shouldn't really be forcing that move when he's, as you mentioned, he's got 2 DRS straights in the next 2/3 of the lap. It's an easy move. He's much quicker. At the same time, though, you can argue that the gap was there. It was a small gap. He did have a right to go for it, but it was rushed, and I think frustration kind of kicking in there for Cookie. Maybe now that the race hadn't gone quite to plan, he was just trying to get as many points as he possibly could, and I think. Should I go back to... I'm just wondering here if I actually move on to who's at fault, because I think the actual contact was, they both played a bit of a role in it. To be honest, it looked like, I watched Cookie's point of view, and he does, if you watch his car relative to the track, he does move off his line ever so slightly. I think Andrew does the same. On the outside, so the actual contact I think is a racing incident. But yeah, Cookie probably just frustrated and just trying to force any move he can. Really,
I mean, it comes back to his strategy. Going that long on the mediums and deciding to go on to the softs, even though we had a safety car. Like, I didn't put on the safety car, looking back, I probably should have. I think he should have pitted under safety car as well. But his strategy really put him in that position, and I do think panic crept in. He comes out of the pits with about 7 laps to go, and he's nowhere near points, and he got a bit desperate. So I'm not gonna say it was our fault. It's pointless, really. But it's not the type of moves you make if you're looking to win a championship. That's what I'll say.
Shade from the championship leader there.
The last 2 races have had stories of good pace and just, I don't know, just things going awry for both you and Cookie, which does bring Dan into it, and maybe even someone like J. Cole.
I think Dan will be leading after this race.
Well, I'm sure he hopes so.
I mean, he's had a bad race if he's not.
Yeah, obviously you're not there.
We'll see if Dan can finish higher than 9th.
Yeah.
But yeah, D2's. I mean, we could talk all day about D2, but it's an ever developing story, I feel, which will be interesting to see over the next few weeks. D3, now that was very interesting because we had just a mad race of which Ton again some way had no pace. I think he come 10th in quali. I just don't get it. And the big story really, from what I could see, was a bit of the Tiggerby show. Now everyone knows I'm a bit of a fan of Tiggerby, but there was a lot of just untidiness more than anything.
It's a shame because Tiggerby has kind of, he's made pretty good progress this season in his driving. He's been, in general. I don't think there was any malice in what he was doing. He just kind of got caught up. And the one with Mike in particular, you can even apportion a small amount of blame to Mike for that one. So it's it wasn't. He just caught up in things that I'm sure he didn't want to be in. Hopefully he's able to pick it back up. I really want to see Tiggerby back to his best, because he was a D2 title contender back in season 1, and he's struggled a bit more since his return. So I hope to see him pick it up a little bit more for the future. And
there are rumours, Gary, that Ton is going to miss the next race with a back strain. Because
a back strain in quotation marks.
Yes, because of Ivor again. Actually, I do feel sorry for Ivor, and who will be taking the lead next week on the podcast. But he had a very bad incident. Well, not in bad incidents. Bad incidents probably a bit strong, but he just seemed to get. He got. Again, there was a contact with Bree, and then there was, I think, something else further down the road that doesn't come to mind.
So up to this season, so far, you could say a lot. Well, not a lot. He's been unlucky. He's had a few crashes with Bag of Bones, which were just unavoidable, and this one I think this is the first time he's actually been where he should be on pace. And then obviously him and Bree had the contact, which put him on the wall and sent him out of the race, which was a bit disheartening for him. But also Bree getting spun at the start was a big point. His championship quest is taking a bit of a hit the last couple of races in Canada and France. I think he's over 30 points behind now, so he needs to do a lot better if he wants to win it. I am still Team Bree though.
Yeah, and what did you? I mean, I forgive you for not knowing tons about D3 actually, because of your commentating D2 and racing in D1. So, what did you think, Dan, from that race?
I think just like D2 and always sounding a bit like a broken record. I think it can potentially be one that could be key in the championship fight. Ton obviously now with a sizable advantage. He's just been really clinical. I think that's That's just the way. And it's the complete opposite to his last season in D3 back in season 17. There's literally couldn't have more contrast. Back then, he was the quickest driver in the league by far. Made too many mistakes. Was out of the championship fight quite early. This time though, he's underdog pace wise, but he's just getting it done. You know, getting the good results and keeping it consistent, and now with a pretty decent championship advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other, I like the double podium of DJ Williamson and Dutchface, because those guys were just struggling in the back of D2 last season, and going to 4 divisions has really helped. And they're always around each other. Since the beginning of time, I swear. Since they've ever raced, I think they've had more contact than any 2 drivers, and you never see them going after each other. But to see them get a podium each was cool. So hopefully they listen, and hopefully they've had a bit of a shout out. But going on to our darkest moment, actually, for me and you, Gary, we kind of jinxed D4 a little bit, I think.
We gave it the full jinx. I mean, I feel sorry. I'd like to apologise to Raj on behalf of me and Mark for his crash, because it's only 2 people's fault, and that's me and Mark's. Like, after that interview, I was convinced this guy doesn't have a mistake in him. He's a cyborg. He's robotic. And what happens after he talks to me and Mark? He goes and fucking crashes.
Yeah, he just literally rubbed off. He got the bottle virus from us.
Yes.
God love him, but that now puts him 20 points behind Jasper, who did win the race in very controversial circumstances. Well, not through his own fault.
I mean,
but
I think Smirsky can take the blame for this one now as well. Smirsky's been bigging up Don all week in the organiser chat, and then he gets disconnected on the last lap when he's about to win the race. So,
I've never seen anything like that.
Me either, never. I feel so bad for him.
But what did you? I suppose what was the big takeaway from there for you, Dan? Other than that incident.
I don't have much here, to be honest.
No, that's fine. I mean, to be fair, I think the only other thing that really stood out for me in those moments, and a big debut, was from Yeren,
yes.
who I think is having his name butchered by Ivor and Tom.
They're not the greatest English-speaking people in the league, are they?
I think they're calling him like Jerome, but
yeah,
no. I'm sure, even in my very bad Dutch, like this is my Damer business, that's Yeren. I'm fairly sure.
I think that could be right.
But no, good result for him. And yeah, I don't know, a mad race, to be honest. I know they had their share of safety cars. I saw Sven and Sven, the 2 Force Indias, wasn't there, that come together.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to be in that debrief.
Yeah. Who was it in the beginning? Because it was a reserve, wasn't it? It was Sven and...
I'm so sorry for forgetting the name.
It was a DNF. I know that. Let's have a look. Well, yeah, they did both. Was it? Oh, I'm trying to think.
It was Ocon and Perez, that's who it was.
It was Ocon and Perez. Oh, that's gonna bug me. Oh no, I'll tell you who it was. It was Muppen.
Okay, yes. I mean, I'd say they're probably both pissed off with each other, to be honest.
Yes. No, Morpy. That's his name. Sorry for not calling you Muppen. Morpy. That's the chap that's hopefully going to be doing a little bit better next week. But yeah, not the best from the in that crash. That was horrible. That just looked like something that happens. It looked like kind of the old desync crashes they used to get in 2018.
Yes.
But yeah, that's kind of that as a small roundup, I suppose. My personal, Yeah, I think my personal favourite moment across the 4 divisions was the battle between Slayer and J. Cole. Actually, that was amazing. That went on for like half a lap. As a whole, that would probably be my favourite. Yeah, and I suppose you, Dan, I know that you were particularly impressed with the finish in D2,
Yes,
and obviously the race to the line in D1. Gary, that leaves you 4th spot. What other things? I guess you're going to go for Cookie and Adri.
I mean, I can't not go for Cookie and Andrew, can I really? I mean, I thought I had a bad race, and Cookie made me feel a lot better. And I just like to point something out. I also, that Nico can back me up, I also said when Cookie came out he'll crash. So Mystic Mac over here.
Is that why you're winning the championship this season?
Yes.
There you go.
Alright.
So we'll go on to our next section, which is going to be a little bit more about, I suppose you're not really a guest, you're a kind of host as well, but we've gassed far too much last episode, so might as well let you have the floor, Mr. Dan, and ask you some specific questions. Right, I'll let you get away with this for once. One time and one time only. How is iRacing going?
No, next question.
Yeah, I think I don't know who would bring up iRacing. This is we don't run iRacing here on.
What's that guy's? Sorry, what's that guy's name you're always going on about? Steve Bundy, is it? Not Steve Bundy, is it?
Steve Bundy?
Who's Steve Bundy? Steve Bundy's in my mind for some reason.
Ted Bundy's a serial killer in America.
Yeah, Ted Bundy, yeah.
Right, can we
What a
maybe
mad
change the
leap.
subject slightly?
What a mad leap. Like, tell us more about, I'm genuinely intrigued, because I've seen a lot of, I do watch some R Factor videos, and obviously I've seen some iRacing stuff. How accessible are you finding it? Because obviously the big thing is the cost.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to tell me how you pay for it, but like, how much access do you feel like you have to that kind of ecosystem, if you like? I don't really get it, so I'm kind of saying it as an outsider.
Well, I think as I'm quite inexperienced, there's people that could give better assessments of this, but personally, yes, you can't really go. So you get your subscription, obviously. To start off, and then. So do you know iRacing has a license system, yeah?
Yeah.
Because when you get off the bottom license class, most of that's the frustrating thing, is that most of the content from there on out you have to pay for. And you're probably talking about £10 to get a car or a track. It is very expensive. You can't lie. But I think that iRacing is meant to be less of a racing game and more of an alternative for real life racing. I think that's the purpose that it serves.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see that because they run so many different championships. It feels very official. So, do I think it's worth it? Yes. But you do have to take into consideration you don't need a great PC to run it, to be honest. That's one positive. But yeah, the price can be quite frustrating at times, but the experience that you have, even just from the start, it can get quite addictive. Just to drive on your own, it's really fun. But enough about iRacing. Let's
No, but I find it interesting for one reason. I think it sounds to me like you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, it's almost like Second Life, but for racing. Like, you're not going to unlock all the content. People think of it as a game, like a linear game, like GT Sport or something. You're not going to unlock all the content. I guess that's not the idea, is it? It's, I really want to go race touring cars around European circuits, so I'm going to go find a league online, or that's what I'm going to do, and then eventually I might look at other. Do you know what I mean? That might. I think that's kind of the idea behind it, I suppose.
That's what makes it really good. Like, there's something for everyone. They're not confined to a box like F1. You know what I mean? F1's F1, obviously, but in iRacing you can go like you said, I want to do tour cars or I want to do Le Mans 24 hours. I'll get a team. I can do it. Like, it's great. It's a great game. It's not a game. It's a sim. But it's. I don't have it. I want to get it, and I definitely encourage people to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And this
agree.
podcast is sponsored by iRacing.
Yeah, so I think before our audience retention drops down the toilet, I think we should probably move on to something else. So, Mark, what else have you got?
Okay. Relating to that, has your performance gone down the pan because of said sponsor in F1? Because you've not done this well so far this season.
No, I haven't. You're absolutely right. I think there's a few reasons though for it. One, the field is so much stronger this season than it was last season.
Fair.
Like, there's just much more. Like, there's the top level of the field. I don't think has changed much, but the actual depth of strength is just so. It's just completely other level. You see the relative performances of people like Jarry, people like Larkin compared to last season. They're way worse than they were last season.
Yeah.
Including myself. Guys that were finishing top 10 in the standings. So yeah, I think it's just a lot of it is down to that. Also, from my end, I do have to admit the motivation since the end of last season, even before the end of last season, has been a little bit down. I think because the field was a bit weaker last season, my finishes still weren't bad at the end. But yeah, I think I've just not been playing the game enough to be competitive at D1, and it's frustrating. I don't like talking about this, but I just don't enjoy the game as much as I used to. So I'm less inclined to play it, basically. They're the two main reasons for my slump, basically.
I think Game Boys is tweeting your farewell goodbye to QVR as we speak.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's fair though. Like with the any kind of motivation.
Oh, I can totally relate. I had this last season. You know yourself, Mark. I literally went off the grid. Didn't do anything for organising stuff. Didn't race. Just showed up on a Saturday. Didn't practice, and then that was it.
Yeah.
So I totally understand where it's coming from.
Yeah, I think it's quite healthy to have that. And actually, this brings us onto a slightly different subject. That this is an interesting opinion. We had too many break weeks last season, but in hindsight, I'm not trying to create a massive topic over it, but I think we've not had enough. I think one up to this point would have been quite handy. It just resets the whole league. That's my opinion.
I can definitely see where you're coming from there. It does feel quite rushed, I have to admit. It's just like race after race after race, and for some people, I reckon that's fine. They can do that. They can just keep grinding, keep going forward without a break. But some other people maybe need that. They need that little week where they can just chill out and not worry too much about league racing. But yeah, I think it just comes down. There's two different groups of people in league racing, and again, it's quite hard to provide for all of them with the schedule.
But I mean, I totally agree. Like, I think another break week would have been good to have, but we didn't do another break week because we wanted to get the league done by a certain time for the next game, and then there's going to be qualifyings and whatever in real F1. So the reason why we had so few break weeks because if we had another break week, we'd end up racing on Champions League final, Canada quali. So like then you're having multiple break weeks instead of the two that we have. You're probably having 4 or 5 if we didn't do it this way, which I think is too much.
Yeah. No, this is it, and that. So there's reasons for it. Obviously, it ties in well with. Well, we've not heard much about the new game, but there we go. Yeah. One big final question. Well, actually, the final question that we'll ask everyone else that we've asked. You've been commentating here for a long time now, actually, like 4 seasons.
Yeah.
I have asked him this question beforehand, so if it seems remarkably well informed, don't be impressed. But
We'll only
what,
have half an hour, guys. Don't listen to him.
what are your top 3 races you've commentated so far?
Right, so funnily enough, I've in this last few seconds I've thought of 3 races. And
Oh, okay.
unbelievable. So I've elected to choose one race from D3 season 17, last season in the PRL, and while I don't think it was by a long shot wasn't the most action-packed race, it was one I really enjoyed commentating on, and that was Belgium.
Oh, great. Okay.
Oh, just remember why.
Yeah. Oh,
Listen, you made an incredible overtake. What's not to love?
yeah. I mean, I loved it at first. Actually, go on. I'll let you tell the story. Go on. But okay. Oh, go on. What did you love about Belgium? Go on.
I love no. It's nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it was a battle for the whole race between you and Bree, but there wasn't much side-by-side racing. It was just you two going at it, pushing each other as hard as you can, and never being more than a second and a half apart. I've been in one league race in particular. It's the same. We won't go further on that. But Gary, you can stay quiet, pal. Yeah, but obviously, the times that you did go side by side, it was dramatic, to say the least.
Yeah. That was great though, because that was Bree's kind of breakthrough moment, I think.
Yeah, he really improved through the rest of the season after that race.
Yeah.
That was your Sebastian Vettel Singapore moment.
Well, Coco DNF'd, so I was more than happy to take that. I mean, in hindsight, the 7 extra points would have been very handy going into Brazil, and it might have.
Oh, sorry. No. Actually, you didn't DNF that race, didn't you?
No, I come second. I got.
Sorry. Shit, I thought you DNF that race.
Desynced on the last lap. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's brutal. But yeah, that was actually a big factor because if I had the 7 extra points going into the last race, it wouldn't have been quite so desperate.
Yeah.
Mentality shifts completely.
Yeah. No, okay. Fair. Number 2.
Well, I commentated through season 1 a bit, and to be honest, I didn't really have any brilliant races that I covered. Season 2, I didn't get the chance to commentate because of the schedule. But this season, I have actually. It may sound like recency bias, but I've actually got 2 races from this season. The first one, and Gary's going to light up, was Bahrain this season.
I wonder why.
Jesus Christ, I'm getting absolutely drowned here. This is great.
Yeah, another bottle of my mark.
No, no. Part of it is because of your win and me finally dropping the "Here Comes Gary" Donning, and that was a factor. But I think the racing in the midfield of that race was just incredible. It was just non-stop, and seeing that, being able to cover it was a real spectacle, and that's why it goes there. Partly because it's emotional. Gary finally gets his first win in the league, and yeah, and yeah, just great racing all around. And to big up the recency bias even more, the very last race in France is also there, just because again, like Bahrain, great racing all the way through the field, and well, one of the best finishes in the history of D2 in my opinion. Just absolutely brilliant. I don't think it quite tops season 17, but doesn't do badly either.
No, fair. And final set of questions. Who wins D1, D2, D3 and D4?
Okay. D1, I'm going to say Lewis. I think he's not even that far behind now, to be honest. I think he's going to be He's so dominant in pretty much everything he does. I can just see him waltzing through a lot of the races and calling back that deficit.
I'm sorry, but that's absolutely perfect. Just because he's your QBR teammate, he's absolutely terrible. He's got no chance.
Oh, for God's sake!
I was thinking that as well.
Oh, you mean Oh, the other Lewis. Oh yeah, he might win.
Just quickly on this one Lewis, ILRT Lewis. If he does win this championship, I mean, you probably could call him the GOAT of PS4.
Yeah, without a doubt.
He's had the new guy come with mouth tricks, and he's gonna put him in his place, maybe. Yeah, you continue.
You guys genuinely thought I meant Campbell there.
No.
For fuck's sake, lads.
D2. Now, this is good. This is interesting.
This is the big one. This is the big one.
I know what you're gonna do.
I know what he's gonna do.
What am I gonna do?
I know what you're gonna do. No, go on, do it, and then I'll tell you that.
Okay, so the D2 champion is gonna be no, Kip no, Dan. Obviously.
I knew you'd do that. I knew you'd do that.
Knew it, fucking knew it.
That was the side door. That was the side door. That was probably the wisest and most.
That is the cop-out. That's a cop-out.
No, to be fair, a lot of people agree with him. D3.
D3. I got back my fellow Scott, Ton.
Yeah, I mean he's quite a lot clearer. And D4.
D4. I think I'm gonna go with. Well, now I'm just gonna jinx it completely. Raj.
Okay.
Oh no, poor fella.
Incoming DNF again.
Right.
Oh dear. Right. Well, that's that for this. And now we will. Thank you very much, because that was interesting. I didn't appreciate many of your top 3 races at all. But that's that for that. And we'll go on to the next section, which obviously is the gloves are off.
Welcome to the gloves are off.
Thanks, Johnny. Right, we are here with the most anticipated, I suppose, grudge chat with the gloves are off. In one corner we have the Irishman who was cruelly jilted. He learned to trust, and that trust was broken. And then on the other hand, we have a man that is like the Emmanuel Stewart. He's like the Sugar Hill of trainers. He's come in to breathe new life into another man's title challenge, and we have Campbell. So yeah, we're gonna go straight into it and over to Dan, who's got some questions here.
Yeah, so me and Mark are gonna ask alternatively. I hope you guys are ready, because I'm pretty sure the audience expects a show here. So
let's give him a show. So
let's give him a show. Right. So come to you first, Campbell. Just gotta ask you, what does it take to win a D2 championship?
It takes, you never give up. You know, it can look really bad for you, but you'll find form if you just believe in yourself. You need to believe you're the best. Gary might say he believes he's the best, but you need to actually be the best along with the belief.
Jesus, where did you read that?
All in my head.
Started already here.
So he knows what it takes. He's kind of insinuating that you don't, Gary. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I don't really care what he thinks. He was in you could say definitely a less competitive D2 than I am at the moment. So I mean, his only challenger was Dan, and he was quicker than Dan. I mean, I think Dan would even say he was. So I've got about 4 or 5 guys who can win a race every week. Well, he's got 2. He had 2. So I mean, did he really win a championship?
And Campbell, what do you have to say to that? Do you agree that D2 was less competitive last season, or do you think the opposite? Over to you, mate.
There was so many different race winners. I mean, how many have you had this season in D2? How many race winners has there been?
I think we've had 5.
Yeah, it's not bad, but we had really quite a lot of race winners as well last season. You know what I mean? Well, you had the 2 Red Bull boys, you had me, you had Jacob.
2.
4, 5. Mark 5.
Season.
Raikkonen 6. You know, the list goes on. Caesar won a race at one point as well, didn't he?
I won one.
Exactly, I mentioned you, don't worry. No one will forget that.
I mean, when did you know that you were gonna Cookie was joining QVR, Campbell?
Cookie was on the radar for a few weeks. He was first brought up, I'd say after a few rounds into the season, and we kept eyes on him. And we decided, you know what, let's make this interesting. So we approached him, and well, now we're here, I suppose. Friendship ended, and another one was made.
And Gary, do you think that Cookie had? Because I know you don't think too highly of either of them. Do you think Cookie had the credentials to get into QV, or do you think he did deserve it?
I'm not going to tell Game Boys what to do with his team, but I don't see how he was worthy after 4 or 5 races in D2. When you look what he did in D1, like, he was dog shit in D1. I'll say it, he was dog shit. And then 4 races in D2, oh yeah, QVR member. Fair enough.
Might have to invite Game Boys to comment on that.
He never joins parties, don't worry.
Well, that's true. Look, I suppose the big question would be, next season, you two might well be in the same division. Who do you think comes out on top?
Is that even a question, really? Like, come on.
Yeah, I know, easy W for me.
No, of course. You're going to argue for a D1 race winner?
Oh, go you! You're special.
You've got one D1 podium in how many races?
I hope you thank Lion for that. I
One
really
D1 podium in how many races?
I hope you thank
How
Lion.
many races? One podium?
I mean,
Come on.
did you see the Grizzlies are racing?
Do you see this current grid?
They're all pot jobs, aren't they?
Still need to be on track to do it, don't you?
Yep, okay.
Finally, why does
we're waiting for it to blow up. Right.
why does Cookie win this title, Campbell?
He knows he does. He's only saying he does because he's QVR.
Was that question aimed at you? Sorry?
No.
So
Oh,
I'm
well,
just answering it for you.
Oh, right, okay. No, he can do it. We've seen from the D1 days, yes, he might not have had the consistency, but the pace was there. You know, he had raw pace, and he's worked on it clearly. You know, he's come into D2, dropped down. Competitive field. I won't take that away from him. It's a competitive grid, and he's won races, he's been up there. You know, and we feel we can help him take it to the next level. Take that raw pace he's shown from D1 last season. Yes, he made mistakes, and happens to everyone, I suppose. You probably know about that, Gary, making mistakes. We can probably help cut those out, and you know.
And over to you, Gary. Why do you think that you're going to win this title in D2 this season?
It's simple. I'm just more consistent than Cookie. I mean, he can't do wheel-to-wheel racing. We've seen that more than once this season. Yeah, it's just consistency is going to be key, and Cookie's high and low. I mean, he's hot and cold. He's whatever. Like, he can be. I'm not denying he's quick. He's just not consistent enough. I don't think he'd be top 3, to be honest, from the end soon. Especially with Campbell as his engineer.
Can we just look at what I did with you when I was there for how many races? You won your first 2 ever wins in 4 races?
I've said this. Were you driving for me? No. So.
That wasn't the thanks I was getting after every race whenever I helped, but ignore that, move on.
One question for you, Campbell, and I'm interested to see what you say. What do you think Gary's biggest strengths are as a driver? I'm very interested to hear your take on this. And there's no cop-outs, by the way. You can't cop out about it.
No, he's good focus. You know, I didn't need to really do much to keep him focused. When he's in the zone, that's him. You know, he's naturally quick. He can do it, but EBS, I mean, come on, get that off.
You sound like Cookie.
Use the brake pedal properly.
Gary, we know what Cookie's biggest strength is, but what's the biggest strength? I'll tell you what, what's the biggest strength of, do you think, Cookie has in regards to having QVR there, having a racing team behind him.
I mean, he's definitely going to have them. He's going to be practicing with them all the time now. They're going to give him setups, etc. I mean, he did have QVR teammates. Dixon's left though, but I don't think there's any QVR drivers in D2, is there? Any other ones?
Not that we know of.
No, not we know of, yeah. So, I mean, they'll definitely get him focused up and get up the right setups and whatever. I mean, they can try, but they won't succeed. So we'll see.
Interesting.
Who do you think would make a good next QVR member? Campbell.
I don't to give a name. It's not too sure. Just anyone that can really fit what the team is focused on. Anyone who shows that they've got the pace, they've got racecraft. They have that. They show signs of potential that we can help.
Racecraft. I'm sorry, I had to laugh.
All the time you have to lead the space. All the time. All the time.
Because I can think of someone, Gary. I can think that Nico would probably make the most sense.
I mean, I've been stabbed in the back once, so might as well keep going. I mean, I think Nico's my boy. I don't think he'll definitely not this season. At least I don't see him leaving me.
I'll tell you that there is one driver in LoE that we are looking at quite intensively, but we won't go too much further into that. We'll,
Leave that on a cliffhanger.
yeah, just we'll leave that to the rest of the league to discuss. There we go.
Put that there.
Follow QVR on Twitter to find out.
Drop us a follow while you're there.
Yes.
I have a question for you guys. When it's all said and done at the end of the season, no matter what the result, will you kiss and make up?
We've made up from some as before. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Need to see how our Irishman over the sea deals with the end of the season result. At the end of the day, it's only a game, you know. Sure, we can make up. But need to see what he says.
I for one think that you will make up. And,
See what you did there.
I mean, it's a carbon copy of last season. We just need another 24-hour charity event to
Exactly.
make us
Called it
friends
back up
again. Yeah, we fine then. We'll race around 4 in the morning around Singapore. Be all mates.
Cool. Right. Well, we've spoken a lot. I guess we have to see what happens over the next couple of races. Just finally from you guys, just if you wish to, just wish each other luck, I suppose.
I mean, yeah, I wish you good luck. I mean, enjoy the rest of the season. You're going to need the luck, but you know, luck of the Irish, I suppose.
I mean, I thank you for giving me luck, but I will not be repaying the favour.
Oh, wow.
So,
Wow.
I'll say best of luck in trying to get Cookie a championship, because we both know he will bottle under pressure.
It's not just me. It's not just me.
Oh, it's all the QVR boys. Oh, I'm so scared.
Who do you have?
Like Nico. I don't need anyone else.
Who's,
Not Nico.
who's on iRacing and Assetto Corsa? When was the last time he touched F1?
I mean, Nico's not going to win me the championship, is he? You
Yeah,
aren't
but
going to win.
he's gonna need help,
You
you're
aren't
not.
going to win the championship for Cookie. It's what he does on track. It's what I do on track.
So what we've
Yeah.
mentioned is, so essentially what we're saying is that that Campbell's engineering is pretty much pointless. Is that what we're gathering from this?
Yeah. Basically, he's not driving. Cookie doesn't even listen to him.
He has a point. He has a point, Campbell.
I did give him the
Cookie
option.
He doesn't trust you. It's like it's fine. He doesn't trust you enough for strategy.
We can work on that. You know, nothing's ever perfect to start with. We can work on it.
Yeah, well, not in the middle of the season.
Right. There we go. Well, thank you both, and Dan. But we now move on to the absolute premiere of the LoE Steward.
Most anticipated moments of the year 2020. Let's go.
This tops this little interview here.
Cool. And now on to the part of the podcast that we have been all waiting for. I'm joined here with none other than the LoE Steward. How are you doing?
Good.
Excellent. Excellent. You ready for some questions?
I think.
Cool. Is it hard to sort out every report?
Interesting question from a boring person, so I will move on.
Yep, that's from LoE McCrew, so that's fair. Why are you strict on the corner cutting?
That question bores me. I just like punishing people.
Okay. Another one from McCrew. A question from B. Morgan. Gentlemen, a short view back to the past. 30 years ago, Nicky Lauda told us, take a trained monkey, place him into the cockpit, and he's able to drive the car. What are your wishes for the future concerning technical program during the race? Less buttons, more, or less and more communication with your engineers?
I like the idea of giving penalties. That's it.
Okay. How large is the universe?
Interesting question from a boring person, so I will move on.
Yeah, that's another one from Daka. Here's a question I do want you to answer. Why aren't blueberries blue?
They are.
Are they?
They're bluey purple.
Oh, fair enough. That's a good question there from Ton Albanek. What came first, the egg or the chicken?
I don't know.
Oh, fair play. And what's your opinion of Gary Donegan winning the title?
No idea.
Don't care? Do you care? Not fast. Fair play. And another question. This is an interesting one. Have you ever considered overthrowing the government?
Who even is this guy?
Yeah, that's from Breadbank. Any last minute thoughts on or questions for anyone?
Why do you play?
Why do you play? Yeah, because they all just crash all the time, don't they?
Really?
Yeah, that's why you're here.
Hmm.
Yeah. Any last minute thoughts?
Just stop crashing.
Fair.